Hi, welcome. You're my first guest, which is so exciting.
That's so exciting.
Can you tell us your name and what you do?
Yeah. My name's Tara. I'm a holistic health coach, women's holistic health coach.
And how did you get into that?
Yeah, so I started as a personal trainer for a really long time. I finished up high school sports and was just really scared of the freshman 15.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, back then they're like, you don't want to get fat in college and whatever. And like magazines were really big then too.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was reading a lot of like Cosmo and 17 magazine, and they were all saying eat 1,200 calories a day and do all this cardio and you'll be like lean and toned, right? And so, I mean, being like 17, 18, 19 years old, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
And so I started following a lot of bad advice, and what was supposed to be like healthy prevention turned into like gaining weight because I was not eating enough, doing a lot of cardio, stressing my body out, destroying my hormones. And when I learned how to do things the right way, I just became really passionate about it, really excited, and I was like, I just want to teach everybody. I want to help. It was like an accident passion that I came across really. So, and then so I coached for close to 10 years, and then I started getting into like functional medicine, hormones, and gut health, and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah. I do have to say that I'm really happy about the shift because I think I got the tail end of like the magazine world, and a lot of the kids today aren't getting the same narrative that we were fed when we were younger, and heroin chic and everything was so big. And I kind of followed the same type of thing in college where I actually lost a lot of weight, tons, because it was kind of a preventative situation, and then it just hit me like a truck, like I think my second or third year in.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. I feel like everyone kind of goes through some degree of that, but nobody talks about it because at that age you're just like caught up with the friends and the dating and the partying, and then you just like hate your body in silence, like in your dorm room.
I think, and I think it's an interesting type of twist that we're like going into now, where I think a lot of people are more into the inside health, and like we're not as interested in the way that we look. Obviously the looks are still very important and to a lot of people, and I think that is still running rampant, but I like this new shift where people are like, well, as long as the inside is healthy, with the gut health and with everything, I think everybody's starting to realize how strong the connection is between gut and brain and feeling and emotions and everything. So that's
I think we've gotten to this point where a lot of women have gotten decent with nutrition and working out, and they're like, okay, but why are my periods debilitating? Why am I bloated all the time? And people are starting to realize now that just because you look healthy on the outside doesn't mean that things are good on the inside. And a lot of these things we've been doing for years are destroying your health on the inside, and it's not good. So we're seeing a lot of women with like fertility issues and period problems and all these things, and it's like we're not as healthy as we thought.
Right, and maybe we could jump into some of the causes of that, because you do see it a lot online with people using IVF and everything, and maybe it's not true that it's being used more, but it seems like it is, where a lot of people are experiencing infertility issues, and it almost seems as though it's ballooning in a way. So like
Totally.
I kind of want to jump into that.
So I think I'm not the biggest fan of Western medicine. I'm a big like holistic Eastern medicine person and like root cause approach. And our modern medicine in this country is very like spot treat, band-aid fix, treat the symptom, not the root cause. And so we're seeing all these women go through fertility and IVF when they're just unexplained infertility, and they don't know why or what's going on, and there's millions of things that can cause that. But it's like doctors make a lot of money off of that, so they're like, well, we don't know why. And I don't think it's all doctors' fault. I think it's the way that they're taught, right?
It's the infrastructure.
Exactly. And it starts with what they learn in school and don't learn, right? And so they're like, well, we don't know, it's unexplained. And I think where I get really caught up with that and where I have an issue with that is like, do you have critical thinking skills? Like, do you ever ask yourself, like, why is it cycles and all of these things. And why are we classifying these things as like normal? Like it shouldn't be normal, because a healthy body doesn't have painful periods. A healthy body can get pregnant without issues, right? So I don't know, it's interesting to me that they don't dig deeper, even in their own thoughts. Ask themselves.
And I mean, a lot of the data is from men, and I think that that's a big issue as well. Is like if you look at most of the medical studies of like different diseases and everything, it's white 30-year-old men as the subjects, which obviously isn't helpful to women.
80% of all studies are done on men.
Yeah, and it's even worse, I think, if you're a person of color or not white. Most of the studies I think are being done on white men, and that also makes a huge difference. And so that is definitely interesting. We wouldn't, for everybody that is so critical in studies and making sure that everything is peer reviewed and that we don't branch out in our
cross-contamination and a good control group. It's not like, why don't we test an Asian female or whatever?
Literally anything else. Not mice and not men.
Right. Literally.
Test something else.
Yeah.
I actually just saw this video. It's related but not super, but it was talking about ADHD, autism, and IBS, I believe, potentially all being tied together in women specifically.
Totally makes sense.
And it all being triggered by like a histamine issue. And so they were like, finally a study on women. They're using women for this study, thankfully. But it was like 5 different disorders, right, throughout the body, and they truly believe that it is all linked to one response, and it's just popping up all over the body.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said something about IBS. That is such a blanket diagnosis, and so many of my clients come to me and they're like, "Yeah, I was diagnosed with IBS," and like, but that's not a real diagnosis.
Yeah.
And most people don't even realize that. They're like, "Well, that's what my doctor said. That's what they diagnosed me as," and I'm like, but that just really means we don't know what's wrong with you. We know that you're having constipation and diarrhea and bloating and all these uncomfortable symptoms, but we don't know why. And it's like, but those are very opposing symptoms too, right? Like constipation and diarrhea are opposites. So like, what's going on? Why is it sometimes one and sometimes the other? Why is, they're not looking for the like patterns in these things, right? And figuring out why. And so what I do with those clients is I really like running a stool test and looking at what's going on inside, because a lot of these people have done like a colonoscopy or an endoscopy, or they did a really like generic stool test with their doctor, and it just comes back like, well, everything looks fine, everything's fine.
It definitely doesn't. It definitely doesn't.
Like, it's not, you're not bloating for no reason. You're not having any of these symptoms for no reason, right? If you're eating healthy, truly like actually eating healthy, right? Like a lot of people, what they think they're doing is healthy and it's not. But if we've checked the boxes where you're eating well, you're getting enough fiber, you're eating higher protein, you're getting enough fruits and veggies, right? You're eating 3 meals a day, and you're still having these symptoms, you more likely than not have a gut infection, right? Like you have a yeast or a bacteria or a virus or something going on, and that's what's causing these symptoms. So we need to do a stool test and figure out what that is and why.
Yeah. I think not to jump too far into the unknown, but like there's also the whole world of parasites.
That's part of it too. 100%.
Yeah, and like not to scare anybody, because like I went through my tapeworm phase where I was like, I have a tapeworm, but like, and I probably didn't. But I think that like that can be an issue too. Like we eat tons of things that have parasites in them. Like I literally
most cultures do a parasite cleanse twice a year.
Yes.
And our country's like, you don't need to do that.
Yes. And I have I'm dabbling in the Facebook world of crunchy moms that use ivermectin and stuff. So I see it from them, and I'm like, it can't be real because it's they're using the stuff that they're using. But anyways, I have tried to look into it a little bit more. You don't get super clear answers, but it is interesting that it seems like most other cultures do it very frequently.
Well, and it happens. Like, food grows in the soil.
Yes.
The soil has bugs.
Yes.
Especially when you're eating meat that is going through factories and you know, our factory farming, it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
It's bound to happen. It happens. And it's not ideal, but it does.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you ignore the problem and say, oh, you're fine.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I just watched a video of someone who they had gotten the salmon themselves from the river in Alaska.
Yeah.
You know, put a camera on it, and there's a little worm just swimming around, and she's like, this is so normal. She's like, I think it was, I can't remember which one it was. I think it was sockeye. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But she was like, 90% of sockeye salmon has parasites. Like, it's just because of the way, I don't know if it's where they're going or what, something that's very specific to them. She's like, they basically all have parasites. You just have to
figure every animal, every living thing has some sort of like health issue.
Yeah.
Like, it's just inevitable. So like,
and then you're eating it.
right.
Yeah.
Ideally, if you're cooking it properly, then the parasites are dying and whatnot. But one of the things is that if you have low stomach acid, then your body's not taking care of that properly, and that's how you're more susceptible to these things. So if you're somebody that's taken a lot of like Tums or Prilosec OTC or any of those like over-the-counter or prescription for that matter, like acid reducers, you're making your gut a opportunistic environment to have these infections exist.
Yeah.
All of them. Yeast, bacteria, parasites, viruses, all of it.
Which I also think is funny when you think of like the alkaline branding, the alkaline water, all those types of things. And I've had this conversation a couple of times. I never jump very far because I know that it's going over people's heads. But, you know, pH, bases and acids neutralize, you know, our stomach is an acid. Yeah. And if you put something in it that is basic, it'll neutralize the acid. And that your stomach is at a certain, what is it, like 2.1 or whatever it's at. Yeah. Is that something for a very specific reason, right? To be able to break down the food that is in your body. So why would you, on purpose, put things in there,
right,
that are gonna try to neutralize that? And so,
I get where people get that mindset from. Yeah. And again, it's like, you can't fault the people, right? Like,
it's marketing.
We see marketing, they're pushing something to make money, and people rarely do the research to understand of like, yay or nay, right? And I get it, like we're busy, people don't want to take the time to read necessarily, but we fall for these things. And so we're like, oh, we've always heard acid is bad and acidic environments is where, you know, disease and cancer thrive. And like, that's true to an extent, but it doesn't mean that every part of your body should be in an alkaline state all the time.
Right. Yeah, especially your stomach.
Right.
So I always thought that was very funny. Like when that popped up, what was it, like 6 years ago-ish? When everything was like, you know, 9.7 pH water. And I was like, that's crazy. I always thought that was funny. Yeah. Which, when my kids ask me, like, why am I taking biology? I'm like, sometimes something as simple as that, where you actually understand the concept and you don't fall for the marketing. That is potentially why you're taking biology. Yeah. Or whatever the class is. You know? But I think jumping back maybe to one, fiber, because you mentioned fiber, and fiber is so important. And I have a funny story with fiber that I'll mention at the end. We'll get to it. And I did email the company. It was very embarrassing, but it's fine. And also, like, maybe going over what the scope of a healthy diet looks like. Because again, like, you know, going back to the whole marketing situation, a lot of things are marketed as being healthy, but I think the people that know, and they're not, you know.
So marketing is huge here. I mean, you really want to stick to eating as much whole foods as you can. So food in its original form. So I like using the example of like a potato. For people that don't really understand what whole foods means, a French fry or a potato chip is going to be like all the way down here versus like the whole potato out of the ground with the dirt on it. It's like way over here, right? Anything in between, like a baked potato or, you know, roasted potatoes, fine. But you want to try to avoid the stuff that's all the way down here because it's been processed so much, meaning they've added inflammatory oils typically. It's been a lot of the enzymes, the fiber, the proteins have been broken down, so you're not getting as much micronutrients out of it. So you want to eat as much whole foods as possible. Ideally be eating 3 to 4 times a day. I know in society now, almost everybody's notorious for skipping meals, especially breakfast, eating small meals, especially like a bar and calling it lunch, and that's not enough. We're like grown-ass adults, right? Like, you can't eat a little snack, you know? A lot of women I have this conversation with, and they're like, well, but I'm busy. And I'm like, if your kid came home from school and was like, Mom, all I did was eat a bar today for lunch, you would freak out. You'd be like, oh my God, weren't you so hungry? Like, you need to eat more than that. But for some reason, when we turn it on ourselves, we think we're like invincible and supposed to be able to run on like oxygen, and that's it. And that's not true.
Yeah, and I think that that's a good way to flip it as well, putting it into a different perspective, or, you know, using the child again. If your child came to you and said, Mom, I'm hungry, and you're like, oh, we're busy.
Right.
We can't. You wouldn't do that. You would make the time to make sure that they eat something. So I think that that's also an important way to kind of flip it on yourself of like, you're not too busy to fuel your body. Like, you can eat something, even if it's a boiled egg. Like, my fiance does not eat breakfast often, and I will chase him around with boiled egg. Like, just eat it. Just eat this one thing and then be done, and then figure it out for yourself for the rest of the day. Yeah. But at least put a little bit of something.
Yeah. So you mentioned something about fiber. So pretty much nobody gets enough fiber because we eat all brown, bland foods. So if you look at your plate and all you see is shades of beige, that's a problem. Once in a while, is that okay? Because like, you want something quick and easy and simple, of course. But on a day-to-day basis, for the majority of your diet, it should always look like a tortilla or rice, or right? And so after you build a plate, so if you really struggle with building a healthy, balanced meal, getting enough protein, getting enough fiber, I really like to explain it this way of like, pick your protein first, because almost nobody gets enough protein unless you've been like doing this for a long time. Pick your protein first and build your meal around it. So do you want chicken? Do you want steak? Do you want fish? Pick your like ethnicity, like do you want Mexican? Do you want American? What are you making, right? And then pick your carbohydrate, because that really still should be the majority of the food on your plate, like half, close to half. And then pick your healthy fat if it's not already there with the protein and the carb that you chose, right? So for example, if you have beef, that's a high fat protein source, so you're already getting some fat in there. And if that's what you want as your fat source, that's totally fine. But we need some color on that plate. So then what can you add is like toppings. Think of it as like the sprinkles on the cake. What can you add to give fiber and color? Because they're usually the same of like micronutrients, color, fiber, it's kind of all the same. So make it easy for yourself. So like if you're making tacos, for example, add some like fajita veggies on there. Throw some, you know, onions or bell peppers or something on there, right? And at least get 2 or 3 grams of fiber from that. Can you chop up some spinach, which doesn't taste like anything, and throw it in there?
Whatever you're making.
Add some beans, right? Like
beans. Oh my gosh, we need to talk about beans. I love beans. Okay.
Right? So like, you want a healthy, balanced meal, and I think if you start thinking about like, well, what sounds good? What do I feel like eating? That's when you're really going to struggle, and you're going to be like, this is impossible. I can't do this. Food shouldn't be a source of entertainment for every single meal all the time. Once in a while, sure. Friday, you want to have a fun meal with friends or order a pizza and watch a movie, by all means. But that shouldn't be your focus and your goal for every single meal.
Right. And I think having that consistency as well of like maybe a couple of meals that you continue to make every week takes a lot of the decision fatigue away. And so like, I do this with breakfast. I have the same breakfast every single day. Like literally, like I will measure out the milk that's going in my coffee, like everything the same. Yeah. And it is a decision that I don't have to make. Right. It's already done. Right. And so my morning is very smooth. And you know, obviously most people don't want to eat the same 3 meals every day for the week, but if you have kind of something in rotation, right, constantly that you know is very balanced, that you can fall on. Yeah. So like mine is shrimp or chicken tacos with a cabbage slaw and beans on the side. Perfect. That is like my go-to. If I can't think of anything, that's what I'm making.
And like you said, there's no decision fatigue in that, because you're like, what am I cooking? What am I making for the next few days? Okay, this sounds good, and you already know that it works and it checks the boxes for you. So then you just make it. You're not hemming and hawing on how much protein does this have? Does this have enough carbs? Am I getting enough fiber? Does this sound good? Like, you're just, you just do it.
Yeah, and I think there's a problem with maybe social media as well, where people are like, oh, but it needs to look good and it needs to be creative and all these things. And
Yeah,
it's like,
no, none of my meals are aesthetically pleasing.
No.
And because that's not real life.
No, I tried taking pictures of my food for a long time. I was like, this doesn't look good. I'm gonna stop doing this.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see what
I do it anyway. I'm like, this is real.
Yeah,
like,
this is
real
what- this is
food
what it
is
is.
like in a Tupperware, cold. Like, on my way here, I had ground beef, rice, and just like salt and ketchup.
Yep.
And it was cold. I was eating it cold on the way here, but I'm like, that's what I had to do because I had a busy day, and I have to eat, and it's just reality.
That protein bar, I didn't want to eat it, but I keep them in my glove compartment for emergencies. Literally, and like I've had like 3 in there for like 6 months. Where I'm
But
like,
that's how it
I
should
just
be.
don't want to eat them. But like I was driving over here and I was like, man, I didn't eat lunch. Like I really needed to eat something.
Better to have something than nothing.
Better to have something. Yeah. And so, and I do keep those chomp sticks in there as
There
well.
you go.
Because
I wish I liked those. I can't
I
stand
don't like
them.
them. I really don't. And I don't really like the protein bars either. But if it means that I get like a little bit of something in,
Yeah.
then it is.
It's enough to hold you over until
Exactly.
you know an hour or two later you can get a meal.
Yeah, we can. I'm going to Chick-fil-A afterwards.
Perfect.
to get a salad. So I'm very excited. And something else I think is a good example. On Sundays, I do a large meal prep.
Yeah.
So whether that means like I'm roasting a chicken and veggies that can like be utilized in different ways in the early part of the week, or if I'm doing a fajita style thing that I've been doing a lot, tons of veggies like peppers, onions, zucchini, asparagus, like whatever I can find, and a marinated chicken. And then I can use that in different ways. I'll turn it into a pasta dish. I'll turn it into tacos. I'll turn it
And
into
that's
like
how you
whatever.
stay on track, but you don't get bored with
Exactly.
what you're doing.
And I am covered from Sunday usually to Wednesday. It usually carries me all the way through, and then I don't have to make a decision until later in the week.
Yeah,
Which is
that's
also
great.
really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna check it really
Yeah.
quick just to make sure. But okay. Hopefully it's still going. It is still going.
Okay, good.
Cool. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, fiber is extremely important. So then I'll tell the story now, because it is funny.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna name the brand, because I did send them the angry email. But it is a candy, and in a serving, which is a small bag. Okay.
I have a feeling I know which brand this is already.
So irritating. And I went.
It's supposed to be like a healthier candy.
I went through their website. I went to all of the people that made videos about the candy on TikTok. I went through Instagram, everything for branding, for marketing of the fiber.
Yeah.
No mention of the fiber anywhere. So
And a chicory root fiber in it.
and I think it had inulin also.
Okay.
It had
Yeah.
it had two.
Chicory root fiber. Everyone's like, oh, healthy, natural. I'm like, you're not gonna like it.
No, and that was the problem with not pop. I think Olipop. I think that's why people were having issues with it, is because I have a lot of chicory or something, and people couldn't handle it in their stomach. But there was no obvious branding anywhere that it was a high fiber thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I was, a high fiber candy to me is like 7 grams.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
For a
candy,
For
that's
a
a lot.
candy, that's
Yeah.
a lot. It had 27.
Grams of
It had
fiber.
27 grams of fiber in a bag.
Okay, for anyone who doesn't understand why I'm like jaw to the floor for that, the daily recommended value for women is like 20 to 30 grams a day.
Yes.
And best believe if it's processed fiber, like chicory root fiber or inulin fiber, or over 30 grams, especially if you're a smaller female, you will be gassy, you will have diarrhea,
Oh, it's bad.
you will not be happy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 27 grams. And again, like if you're gonna do that, it needs to be on the front. It needs to be high fiber candy.
But that, you see, that's where they get you in so many ways. Of
Yeah.
like the high fiber, high protein, whole food, all whole grain, any of those trigger words or whatever that you see on the front label. That's why you can never go buy that. And everybody's guilty of it. I'm guilty of it sometimes. If I'm in a rush and I'm just like, need to get in and out of the grocery store or whatever, like, you think, oh, this seems good. If you have to learn to flip the label over and read the back. Because that's
so
what's
bad.
actually in it. And like, if it says like high protein, they want you to buy it because right now the thing is protein.
Yeah.
And if you flip it over, it may very well be like 6 grams of protein, 8
Yeah.
grams of protein, which is not high protein. You should be getting 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of your goal body weight per day. So something that has 6 or 8 grams is not high protein, but you wouldn't know that unless you learn to flip it over and read the nutrition label.
Right.
So
yeah, it was bad. Yeah, I sent them an email. It was
as you should though. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I'm such an advocate for people sticking up for themselves and speaking up. I talk about that a lot in my content because our country needs a lot of change, especially in the nutrition department specifically. And change comes from you speaking your truth and where you vote with your dollar. So they're going to keep making money off of their product, and they're going to assume everything's happening fine and keep doing what they're doing as long as you're buying it and keeping them afloat financially and being quiet.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it was not fun. And I told them, I was like, you guys need to make this more obvious. Because this is also, why is it 27?
Well, and the thing is too, then they need to change the serving size to like a quarter of what that baggie is, because nobody should be getting that much fiber in one sitting.
No.
Even let's say you sat down, you're like, Tara, I love my black beans and I'm gonna eat a can of black beans with lunch today and hit my fiber goal for the whole day. I'm gonna tell you, you better not do that. You're not gonna be happy. You're gonna be running to the bathroom.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing to keep in mind too, because I'm a huge advocate of beans. I make a lot of videos about beans. I love them so much. I think that they're so good.
Better like limit yourself.
It's your fiber, and there's some carbs, and there's protein, and you usually add a fat. So they're just great. And you can put them in anything. You can freeze them and put them in your smoothies. You can have them on the side. Sometimes they air dry them into a little snack. Like, they're just great. But I was having a conversation with my mom, and I told her, like, hey, you need to eat more beans. Like, they're really great.
Like, get on the bean train.
Yeah, I was like, Mom, you need to eat your beans. And she was like, well, I can't because they hurt my stomach. And I was like, well, you have to basically build a tolerance. Like, you can't just down a can of beans in one sitting. Like, you can't do something like that. Especially, like you said earlier, the average American is not hitting anywhere near, probably not even half of what we need to be hitting. I would say with confidence. And to try to increase it that fast is you're asking for a problem, and then you're going to experience the problem, and then you're going to get scared. And then you don't want to do it anymore, and you're going to be like, I don't like beans anymore. That's not true.
Well, something too I see a lot of people do is like, if you're somebody that goes from eating like mostly processed foods, and then you're like, oh, let me have this one random like healthy thing like beans and focus on fiber, your body is going to be like, what is this? And that fiber is going to push everything through your digestive system pretty quickly. And of course your stomach's going to cramp and ache and hurt, and you're going to have some not so great side effects from that, because your body's like, oh, health. Like, your body likes consistency. It likes what it's used to. It likes that homeostasis, right? And if homeostasis for you is like mostly processed food, you really gotta kind of like ease into it.
I think that that's very important. And I think that goes along with working out as well, where it seems like a lot of people have these goals, and then they make very rapid changes with eating and working out, whatever. And then they wear themselves out. And
it doesn't stick.
No, not at all. And it really is about just increasing slowly. And I think it's as easy as, like, if you go to the grocery store, just parking the furthest away that you can.
Totally.
And then walking in, and if that's your exercise for the day, you just doubled your exercise that you normally have. So it's those small changes, or maybe we do grilled chicken instead of fried chicken for the one meal of the day. Like, it really could be something small, and I think that's very important as well, because there is a lot of this push for people to be very healthy. And I think people feel shame sometimes if they're not eating that way or not performing that way, and so they feel like they have to make a change very fast. And then it's not sustainable.
And that is like nail on the head of like the conversation I probably truly have the most with people when I get on a call with someone who's like interested in working with me. Almost all of them detail like what you just said of like, I've tried XYZ. They basically tell me how they go from 0 to 100. They burn out after like a week or two, and then they do this off on. I pass, I fail, I start again. And it's like, because you're making changes that A, don't work for your lifestyle, B, you don't have structure or real purpose. You don't have a real goal. You're just like, I'm just doing this thing because society told me I should. And you're changing so many things at once that you're literally overwhelmed. So when people start with me, I start in a slower way so that habits stick long term. Because when you become overwhelmed, you're unsure of what you're doing or whatever, if you don't understand it, you're just gonna hit what I call the fuck it button and be like, I can't do this. Screw it, I'm just gonna be fat forever. All right, like that's the mentality, because you're like, well, it's hard, I can't do it. Right. So when I start with a new client, most of the time, I mean, it's all tailored to the individual where they're at, but most of the time I'm gonna give them consistent with eating 3 meals a day, hitting like a step goal, a water goal. Let's get you used to just going to the gym. Get you used to logging your food, because if you're not tracking your food, A, you can't hit a goal, you can't go through proper like diet phases or muscle building phases if you don't know what you're eating or how much. And let's just work on those things like one at a time. So everyone's different, everybody's like lifestyle, what they can handle mentally is different, but I usually pick like 2 or 3 things and I'm like, let's start here. It feels maybe a little boring and you're like, is this it? But like progress happens in the boring, doing the same thing day after day after day and being really, really consistent. And after like a week or 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, then we're gonna add on to that, right? Like then by the time you're done working with me, we're in this brand new healthy lifestyle, right? And oftentimes with that, we see a lot of hormone issues correct themselves, a lot of bloating and digestive issues correct themselves. And it really comes down to like your lifestyles driving those things more so than anything else.
You have to establish a new baseline, basically.
Totally.
I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. They had said that, you know, they didn't think that they were going to the gym often enough, and they felt that it was overwhelming to go for, you know, like an hour at night or whatever. And I was like, well, if you just go and commit to 5 minutes, you're likely to stay for at least half an hour. But it's a mindset shift.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Because it's like you can go to the gym for 5 minutes. Like you can get on a treadmill for 5 minutes and then leave, and you still increased your activity. You still put yourself in an uncomfortable situation that you didn't want to be in. And again, you're already there, so you're likely to be like, okay, let me just stay a little bit longer. And I think that that's what it's about as well, of like not changing anything too fast, like you said, but also like shifting the perspective, you know what I mean, into something that's a little bit more positive, of like, well, I know that I can do that, and we'll see where it takes me.
Right.
Even if you feel like I can't do this.
Getting there is the hardest part.
So
if you literally tell yourself that, you're like, it's not gonna be as bad when I get there. Tell yourself, I'm putting it on a pedestal in my head, I'm making it out to be harder than what it is. What, like you said, once I'm there, I'm gonna feel better and I'm gonna wanna keep going, and all of that is factual. If you can just tell yourself, let me just drive to the gym and park in the parking lot, great. Once you do that, you're gonna be like, well, it's dumb if I don't go in, I'm already here, right? Then you're gonna go inside, you're gonna warm up and probably walk on the treadmill for a few minutes, scope out the area and see what you want to do, because most people at this stage don't have a real plan, and that's okay. Everyone starts somewhere, but eventually you do need a plan, and then you're gonna feel good. You're like, okay, I'm moving my body. You're inspired by seeing other people working out in the area, and before you know it, you're gonna be there for like an hour and do a full workout.
And I think that it's, you know, a comfortability thing as well, because I remember, not when I first started working out, because I've been working out since I was like 13. But I went through a phase where I was a little bit heavier, and like I didn't feel comfortable going to the normal machines that I was going to before, and so it kind of put me in that space that maybe sometimes people feel when they're there for the first time. And I think it's like as simple as finding like a machine that you like, and you just stick on that one for a while, and then you're gonna see somebody else that is doing like, I still learn different things from people in the gym. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that, and I probably look funny staring at them, but
start there, but don't stay there. Like, that is one of the biggest reasons, like, any woman that comes to me is like, I've been working out, I've been doing these things for like years, literally. They'll be like, I've been going to a boot camp for years, I've been going to the gym for years, I work out 5, 6 days a week, 4 days a week, and I see no progress. And like, it's because you're not challenging yourself. You're sticking to machines where you're in your comfort zone, and you're not actually challenging your body anymore. so of course you're not seeing progress.
Yeah,
So
and
you have to push yourself to get outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to diet as well too. As I think, jumping back, I think a lot of people think that they're eating healthy and they're not.
Totally.
I think that that's probably a pretty big issue as well. Of like, we're being told that certain foods are healthy and like they're really full of fat and sugar and like they're not that great.
And most people on their own aren't tracking their food, so they're like, well, let me get a salad, it's a healthy choice. Let me get this like turkey sandwich, it's a healthy choice. And like, that's great, you're making effort, and I understand why you think that that's healthy. But when you sit down with me and you track your food, and we actually have a conversation about it, your mind's gonna be blown.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think especially with the sauces and everything too. Like I said earlier, I'm going to Chick-fil-A and I get this salad. It's the Southwest salad. It's got beans and stuff on it. But I get the creamy salsa dressing because I like it, and I do very well with like I know where my calories are going. I'm very in tune with all of that. I did a lot of tracking for a long time, but I think that most people would be surprised that the salad is like 800 calories.
yeah, the dressings alone are between like 300 and 400 calories alone,
it's a lot.
and it's like 30 grams of fat. So which isn't bad. If you have very little fat in all of your other meals, then by all means.
Yeah.
Most people eat a lot of fat though.
Yes.
And it's not that fat's bad.
Yeah.
But we just need a certain amount a day of carbs, protein, fat, calories, right? Fiber, everything. There's a goal there. And if you're going way above or way under, there's gonna be, I don't wanna say consequences, but like there's gonna be an effect to that, right?
Right, exactly. And I think when people think of healthy choices, they do think salad. And depending on where you go, salads can have more calories because of the dressing.
Yeah.
Can have more calories than say a sandwich or something.
And you're
like
not
that.
even full.
Yeah, so you don't. Yeah, so I think that's why it's also very important that you're sitting down with somebody who knows how to read the labels and can track properly, and like it doesn't need to go so far as to like measuring all your food. But I will say that when you eat very consistently, if you've been measuring for a while and you get a baseline of where that's at, you know how to fit things in a little bit better.
Yeah.
So like with my breakfast, because I'm eating the same thing every day and I have tracked the calories, fat, protein on that, I already know where some of it is allocated, and I have an idea of where I can go with the rest of my day without having to track every single thing that I'm eating. Like my breakfast is extremely low carb, so I know I can go higher on my carbs later in the day, whereas if I was eating something high carb, I would go lower. So it's that type of thing as well. It doesn't need to be an everyday situation that you're tracking everything, but we need a baseline of some sort.
And what you just described is exactly what I try to tell people. Like if you come into my program and say like week 1, week 2, this is your brand new tracking. You've never tracked your food before. Most people are like, I'm nervous, I'm overwhelmed, it's a lot. I'm like, it's because it's brand new. School was hard once. When you started your job and you were training, it was hard and scary and overwhelming, but you got through it, and now your job's easy and you know exactly what to do. It's the same thing. After a couple of weeks, you're going to start to pick up on the things of like what you're saying, and it's all just going to be mental. And you're going to be like, oh, I know this is high carb. I know this is low carb. I know, what to mix and match.
Right, exactly. So I think that that all comes with time, but you have to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. Totally. To learn a little bit more. I think the next thing, definitely I want to talk about the gut. And like, I know that we already kind of did, but gut bacteria, connection of, mind, gut, everything. I think it's interesting how much data is coming out about what is being produced in your gut, especially something like serotonin. Like, I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, so the majority of your serotonin is made in your gut. So if you're somebody that doesn't eat very healthy, if you've, like I said, been on Tums, Prilosec, any PPI, and you're like, man, I also struggle with my mood, I struggle to focus, I think I have ADHD, maybe you're already on an antidepressant, look at your gut first, 100%. But again, doctors don't do that, especially like, if you go to a psychiatrist and you're like, like my mood's just really not good, I'm really depressed, I'm really anxious, they're gonna be like, okay.
Right.
Here's an antidepressant. They never ask to see what's going on in your gut. Let's do a stool test.
Right.
And again, I don't think it's their fault. They're not taught. But like, why are we not questioning that? Why are they not questioning? Why is this happening?
I think it's very interesting, especially in the place that I work. And I'm not gonna, It is what it is. But I work with kids, and a lot of them have ADHD.
But their diet's trash.
Tons. And their diet is awful. Like, they eat the most insane amount of cereal, oat bars, bread. It's a lot of carb heavy. It's a lot of sugar. It's a lot of, and people are gonna feel the way that they feel about colors, but I don't like the colors.
I know, I'm like,
There's a lot of colors.
I'm drinking this, and the only reason I'm drinking this is because my blood sugar's been a little funky today.
No, I
but I
it's
never
okay.
drink this. I know somebody who's watching is gonna be like, she's over here talking all this holistic stuff, but her drink's blue. My blood sugar's been a roller coaster today, and that's why I
still
have
eat
this.
M&Ms. I get it. Like, every once in a while I have them, but generally speaking, I am anti-color, right? The colors in the food, not anti-color. But they're eating these things, and I'm like, it makes me so upset.
Like, they're coming from homes where their parents aren't educated, they're probably already stretched really thin, and realistically, people in general can only do so much, right? And that's why they work with you, and they hire other people, and whatever, and like, that's great, but a lot of this should be common knowledge.
Yeah, and
like, one day I hope it will be, but right now it's not, and we're just not there yet.
Yeah, and I wish it's probably one of the most frustrating things that I deal with, because I'm like, you're not gonna make ADHD go away by eating well. Like, that's not what people are saying.
Right.
But the symptoms are being exacerbated by the things that you're putting in your body. And I think that it is so odd that people don't understand that the things in your environment going into your body make a difference in like what you're going to feel and think. And that's one of the things that gets me all the time. I'm like, just give them a piece of chicken or something, like, instead of the cereal, or whatever. Like, give them something else for a couple of weeks.
Your body, the building blocks of your body literally come from what you put in it and on it, and the environment you put it in. So if you're skipping breakfast and having coffee, you're grabbing, I don't know, whatever fast food is close by, Chick-fil-A for lunch, Chipotle for lunch, and then dinner you're like, man, I'm exhausted, I'm starving, I worked so hard all day, why am I ravenous? Work was so stressful. You're having 2 glasses of wine, snacking on things in the kitchen while you make dinner, and then you're going back for seconds, and you're like, why am I ravenous? And then you're laying in bed at night, and you're like, I'm craving all the things. I want that ice cream in the freezer. I want that, whatever in the pantry. It's because you starved yourself all day. You're, coming down after a hard day where your body's running on nothing but stress hormones because you're underfueled. You're probably dehydrated. You're really stressed at work. You're in this beige room under fluorescent lights, surrounded by people that are probably not healthy to be around, sitting in front of a screen all day. And then when you leave work and your cortisol drops, you're like, oh my God, I finally have hunger cues again.
Yeah.
And you're all of a sudden feeling all the things that your body's been numb to all day. And it's like, your cortisol's also jacked up because you're putting a bunch of junk in your body. You're putting alcohol in your body, and you're not eating proper meals, right? Like, you're skipping breakfast, you're having a bunch of caffeine during the day, you're running on fumes. Of course you're gonna have painful periods. Of course your gut health is gonna be trashed, right? Of course you can't lose weight.
Yeah, I think it's interesting the alcohol part of the conversation as well, because I just had this thought last night. So I don't drink alcohol, and it's very habitual, right? You go home, you have a glass of wine, maybe 2, like whatever. Studies come out and they say that it's really good for you, and then more studies come out and they're like, it's really bad for you.
I think all of that's bullshit.
What do I listen to? But this week in particular has been very stressful for me, and I had this thought last night where I was like, wow, I'm glad I don't drink, because I know that because of the habit and the people around us, I would have turned to more wine in the evenings than maybe I normally would. And so I was thinking that. I was like, oh, I'm really glad I don't drink, because this week would have been a heavy week,
And then you don't sleep well, even if you think you are, you're not. Your body's not recovering properly. And then you're feeling like crap the next day, you're dehydrated, right?
And the cycle starts again.
Exactly.
All the caffeine. Yeah, I had this conversation with somebody at work too, where he had said he had just drinking a Monster, and he was like, I feel nothing. like I didn't feel an increase in energy, like stuff.
Really
Yeah. And I was like, dang, like we've gotten to the point where a monster isn't doing anything to us. Like we need to pull back a little bit.
And that used to be me.
Yeah.
That totally used to be me.
Yeah.
I got to a point where maybe like 3 years ago, I was just super busy doing all the things, caught up with life, and my caffeine tolerance was so high, I was not slowing down to pay attention to just like the world around me. And I would like coffee in the morning. I'd have an energy drink like in my bag at all times. I'd have like iced coffee, you know, like the canned iced coffees from Costco, like a case of those in my trunk sometimes.
Just in
like,
case.
Just in case. And I'm like, why didn't I like pause for just a minute and
Yeah.
realize like if I'm that exhausted, something probably needs to change. So like I'm guilty of it too, you know, a lot of people I think come to me and feel like they have to be perfect or they're super embarrassed. Like I'm human too. I've struggled with a lot of health stuff myself. I've had hormone issues, I've had gut health issues, I've had issues with my weight, my relationship with food and all these things, but we live in such a fast-paced lifestyle where we're just like on to the next thing that we don't slow down enough to pay attention to what's right here, right now.
And I think that that's very important as well. Like we need to be in tune with our bodies, and I think it's hard when again our pace, I think as Americans, is very fast. You know, we go to other countries and we go on vacation and we see their lifestyle is very slow. We as a country are very fast.
Yeah.
And I think especially with social media and we're watching people doing things that we want to be doing and we're seeing them pivot really fast and we almost feel like we have to catch up even more. A lot of our problems can be solved
by literally slowing down.
By literally just slowing down and just trying to listen to the body.
Yeah.
And I think like that's something that I had to go through as well, where I had a large, big issue for a long time where I would eat everything on my plate, no matter how much I was putting on my plate.
Right.
And that comes from, you know, childhood, being told that you need to eat everything is on your plate, whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Don't waste food.
Yeah, and it didn't come from a bad place. It came from a very good place, but
Right.
it, you know, followed me into adulthood. And I ballooned up to, I think, 50 pounds heavier than I am right now during COVID. It was a lot of weight. And a lot of it fell down, literally, I couldn't go to the gym. That was the sucky part. But to having to eat everything.
Yeah.
And I had to, like
unlearn
fight,
that.
fight with myself for like 3 years. And even now I still struggle with it every once in a while, depending on what is in front of me. But it took like 3 years of me having to pay attention to every single meal.
Yeah.
Listen to the hunger cues.
Yeah.
And like slow down. And it takes a lot of work. And it's a mental battle to be like, oh, but you know. And
learning those habits are really hard.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's why it's really important that you teach your kids really good healthy habits from a young age, because that really sticks with you.
Yes.
But kids learn by watching, not by what you tell them. So if you're sitting there not practicing what you preach, your kids are gonna do what you're doing, and then you know struggle with those things for the rest of their lives.
Right. Yeah. I think people don't realize how much it sticks with them, these little moments. And I think it, you know, it goes back to the point of being very intentional with yourself, and like you really do have to slow down, because it's really easy to be like, well, this is just how I eat, okay, and then just keep going. But to like sit there and like literally have a battle with yourself for every single meal it's exhausting. One, and you don't enjoy mealtime because you're like fighting with yourself, but also like it's necessary. It has to be done. And I'm so glad that like I made those changes, because again, even now, like every once in a while I still have those issues where it's like it's in front of me and I don't want to put it away, or like I have this problem where it's like it doesn't look like enough leftovers, and so it's not worth it to take it as leftovers. So I just eat it, and it's like that's not how that works. Like I can take it and enjoy a couple more bites at home, you know. And I had this conversation with a friend that has the same struggle as I do, and she expressed that to me, and I was like, I'm just 2 years ahead of your process, but like we still have the same battle, like we're still fighting with the same thing.
And that's one of the reasons I love tracking, because it takes your focus then onto why am I eating what I'm eating, how much does my body need, versus like what's on my plate in front of me, what do I feel like having, right? You change your focus to, okay, what are my goals? And I think sometimes people can think that tracking is really restrictive and like controlling, but it's all about your relationship with it.
Yes.
If you use it in a controlling way, then yeah, sure, it's going to be really restrictive and controlling and unhealthy. I think anything can be unhealthy.
Right.
But if you're using it to be like, hey, how much carbs, fat, protein, fiber, sugar, whatever does my body need? How many calories do I need to hit my goals? Are you gaining weight, losing weight, building muscle? Like, use it as a tool. It's information.
Exactly. I think for a lot of people it can be very liberating.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me it is, at least. Like I said earlier, when I tracked out all of the macros and everything for my breakfast, and that just gives me a baseline for my day. Like it's an automatic baseline. I know where I'm at every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me more freedom in the choices that I'm making.
Right.
Whereas if I was changing my breakfast every single morning, I would have to recalibrate daily.
And that's stressful because then
That's
you're like,
super
what
stressful.
do I need? What do I have? What can I make?
Yeah, and if the thing is not available, then it causes more stress with food, and now I have to go out of my way to find the thing to fill the deficit, whatever.
Right.
And I shouldn't have to do that every day.
I also found that tracking macros was so helpful in like fixing my relationship with food because, like I said in the beginning, I got in college, I was terrified of freshman 15, tried to make all these changes, it completely backfired, and eventually along the way, I learned, my journey and how I got here is like a really long story, but I came across like everything from food politics and conspiracy theory stuff, all the things, at like 18.
Oh, like the vegan videos and stuff?
Everything.
Yeah.
Like Epstein, the
food?
FDA, like all the food politics of like organic versus the FDA, GMO, Monsanto.
Yeah.
At like 18, which nobody was talking about back then. And I learned, I was just trying to find information on like how to lose weight.
Yeah.
And I accidentally stumbled upon all of this stuff. So it was a lot of information all at once.
I did
It
the
was
same
such
thing
a
with
young
that.
age.
I threw it all at my family. My dad just brought this up again at dinner the other night, where he was like, "Do you remember when you went through that vegan phase?" And I showed everybody those videos. I was like, "This is our food system," and nobody believed me. And I was like, "Where did they get the footage from? Then, if it isn't real?" Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's insane.
I went through all that too. I tried being vegan, tried being vegetarian, all of those things. I used myself as a guinea pig, and I've been through everything. And but anyway, tracking macros helped me a ton because after I would gain weight and lose weight really quickly because I became very restrictive, and it destroyed my relationship with food because I would try one thing, it wouldn't work, so I'd get really restrictive and be like, I can't have dessert this week. I gotta do an hour of cardio every day. And at that age I was drinking, I was having fun with friends, so then I'd get mad at myself when it would be like 2 a.m. and I'd go get like, I don't know, a sub from like the gas station, and I'm like, I went over my calories today, so now I've got to do X amount of cardio to make up for it or whatever. And that became like really restrictive, where I would go through these like binge and restrict cycles. So I would gain and lose the same like 20 pounds like over and over. And it's really crazy to like look back at pictures sometimes and be like, it'll be like February, I'm like clearly a little overweight, like not super comfortable in my body, and like 2 months later I'll be like looking decent, and then like another 2 months later I'm like too thin and like not looking well, and then the cycle repeats. But when I learned to track and I started looking at like, okay, what does my body actually need to lose weight, to maintain, to gain muscle, whatever, depending on where it's at, I stopped focusing on how many calories have I had today. That was too many. That wasn't enough. I want the brownies that are downstairs so badly, but I can't have them. I can't have them. I can't have them, right? It's just my focus to, okay, here's my protein goal, carb goal, fat goal, whatever, and how much do I have left, and how can I build a meal around that? And to me, that helps alone so much, because it just takes your mind off of what it's typically on, of like what you're craving and like what you feel like is good or bad because of what society tells you, and onto what does science say? What do the numbers say? Because data is everything. And so that alone helped me fix my relationship with food quite a bit, because if you stay consistent with it, then you also see the results. And then you're like, okay, so all this crap I've been seeing in social media, for me it was magazines back then, right? And all these things, you're like, okay, something's not right here, because obviously what I'm doing now is working and this wasn't, right? So when you're patient, you give it a little bit of time. That is if your goals are set correctly. That is one thing that a lot of people use an online calculator that is too aggressive and it'll be too low calorie, or they stay at the same macros for like 6 months and it's like they're supposed to change over time, especially if you want to be in a fat loss phase. But anyway, if you're doing it properly, you will see the results. And so that was huge for me for fixing my relationship with food.
And I think like heavy on maintenance too. I think people forget that that's an option.
That's an actual goal. Like
That
you literally
that's an
should-
option.
That is always end goal, is getting to maintenance.
If the goal is to lose weight, eventually you drop to a maintenance state.
Mhm.
And I think that people forget that that's an option as well. And
Yeah.
also I think it comes down to timing,
Yeah.
where people feel as though they have to lose 15 pounds in a month or something along those lines. And like unless you're 300 pounds literally, that's not feasible. Most people are not going to be able to drop 15 pounds in a month sustainably and continue to do that over time, unless again you have like a larger mass that you're working with.
Right.
And I think that like if people were okay with a 2 to 5 pound per month over the course of like 6 months, and then increasing to a maintenance,
Healthy
I
fat
think-
loss for most people, meaning if you want to lose like 5 to like 30 pounds, is losing a half a pound to 1 pound of fat a week. If you do it faster than that, you're eating too low calorie, which means you're going to hit a plateau a lot faster, meaning you're going to stop losing fat. And you're also not making lasting changes. So like think of like crash diet before summer vacation. If you like are like, oh my god, I have vacation in a month, I don't look good, my bikinis don't fit, my shorts don't fit, I feel huge, and you all of a sudden are like, I'm going to do intermittent fasting and an hour of cardio a day. Sure, you might lose some weight and feel better, but you're gonna lose mostly muscle. You're gonna lose a lot of water weight. You're gonna keep more fat than what you would like. Then you're gonna end up with that skinny fat look. And guess what? When you start eating more than on that vacation and having the drinks and all the fun things, you're gonna gain it twice as fast. Because if your calorie expenditure for that whole month you were crash dieting was like 1,500 calories, being generous for what most women do, and then all of a sudden on vacation you're having like 2,500, 3,000 calories a day, assuming you're drinking and eating out, your body's like, hey, this is like an extra 1,000 calories or more per day. You're gonna leave that vacation really bloated, really inflamed, gaining fat, not feeling good, and then you're gonna be like, I never used to gain weight this quickly. And it's like, because every time you go through a diet, you're decreasing your metabolism by eating less, and which is fine, you have to do that, but in order to correct that, to maintain the fat loss and maintain the body you want and not repeat the cycle, you have to go through a reverse diet, and nobody does that on their own.
No, it seems like only bodybuilders do something like that. And I wanted to touch on a point that I think is so important for right now, especially the use of code words in commercials, especially for a particular diet supplement that is being marketed right now. It's funny because I watch these commercials with, I think, a
I'm
different.
laughing because I know what you're talking about and I can't stand it.
I think I have a different set of eyes. I think we both are sharing a set of eyes that the general public does not have. When it comes to these commercials, and the code phrase that I want to point on is weight loss. Weight loss
It's different from fat loss.
is completely different from fat loss. And I was watching the commercial last night, and it said, whatever percentage of weight loss. And in my head, it's alarm bells that most of that is muscle. And to a certain extent, bone density. It's not fat loss. Now, if the commercial said blank % of fat loss, great. That's fantastic, and some people need that. But I would say probably that at least half of that weight is probably bone and muscle. And that's awful.
I really just shouldn't comment because I could go down a rabbit hole about this and we'll be sitting here for another
It's
3
so,
hours.
and
Like,
maybe that
truly.
needs to just be a part 2 on like
Yeah.
how awful, and it just, oh man, it really grinds my gears
Yeah.
when I watch these, because it's like, I know that people see that and they're like, that's exactly what I need.
Yeah.
But no.
Because it seems like the shiny, perfect little object that's the saving grace, and it's like, you don't have stubborn fat. You don't have stubborn fat. There's no such thing. It's not that you can't lose weight. You just aren't. Fat loss is math.
Yeah.
It is math, it is science, and if you're not losing fat, it's because you're eating in a caloric surplus.
Yes.
You've been eating too little for too long, you've destroyed your metabolism. There's a reason, but you're going from like loosey-goosey, making excuses, doing things on your own, to the extreme of I need medical weight loss help. The
Yeah.
middle ground is me
Yeah.
helping
It's
you
just going to the
because
gym with a
I'm
professional.
doing the math and the science and the heavy lifting behind the scenes that you don't want to do.
Mhm.
And if you wanted to do it, you would have done it. It literally just comes down to
Yeah. I actually, I took this from Siva. This is at Siva. He was talking about people using supplements in the gym.
Yeah.
And he's very open about his use and everything.
Yeah.
And he said there's nothing wrong with using it if you have maxed out your ability as a performer.
Right.
If you are eating perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
if you are working out perfectly,
Actually,
you are pushing yourself to the absolute max that you can as a human being.
Mhm.
Then you unlock a supplement to push yourself past that.
Supplements are the sprinkle on
Yes.
top to support the diet and the workouts and the good
hard
quality
training
sleep
that
and
you are doing. Yes.
It is never the answer. It's never magical
No.
all on its own. I don't care what it is.
Right.
The diet, the lifestyle, the workouts, all are your base. So I kind of always go over this too with new clients of like, think of it like a pyramid. Think back to the old like food pyramid where there's like 5 sections. The bottom, nutrition, training, next line, your sleep and your stress, and then so on, right? The next line would be maybe like steps in your water intake. And then the very, very top, the least important is your supplements.
Mhm.
That should be cherry on top, the sprinkles to your cupcake, and they're supportive, but they're not ever going to be like the engine driving the train, you know?
And I think that there's a lot of supplements that are, and also the thing to keep in mind as well is that supplements are not regulated. And that's not to say that they're not good. I take my supplements on, there are certain things that I take, but they're not regulated.
I just don't trust anything from the FDA at all personally. So even if it's FDA approved,
Oh, I don't. But what
I have
I'm
nothing
saying,
positive to say.
no, but what I'm saying is that just like you don't necessarily know what's in the bottle. You don't necessarily know what the amount is, right? Just because it says it on the sticker doesn't mean anything.
And that's why it has to be something that's third party tested
Yes.
and actually
From an actual third-party testing site, because there's also fake third-party testing labels that aren't real. So that's the
and that's
other
why
part.
I have all my clients, I mean, they don't have to, but I highly suggest like if you were my client and we're identifying specific supplements that you actually needed, and obviously I explain why and all the things, I'm gonna send it to you through a platform where everything they have is third party tested, all organic, all good quality, everything on there I trust. You don't have to sit and do a bunch of research every time. I encourage you to avoid Amazon where there's a lot of fake supplements that don't really have the active ingredient in it or enough. I definitely don't want you going to Target and buying Up and Up brand because it's petroleum based. Most people, even the supplements they are taking, are good quality. Having good quality supplements is really important.
And there are a lot of really good ones, and a lot of them are repped by personal trainers and things online that are quality trainers, quality nutritionists, and so there's a couple brands that I have in my head that are really great. But yeah, I think Amazon is definitely a place that you need to be careful, because a lot of the pages are fake. Like, you know, articles have come out and everything where they literally say, it'll say like verified blank brand, and it's not.
Right.
So it's like that, you know, you have to be very careful about buying from them. Yeah, there's something that you had said that I wanted to go back to, but
I could talk about this stuff all day.
no, I love all of it, and it drives my fiance nuts because I'll start talking about it. He's like, "What are you talking about?"
Aww.
Because he doesn't get it. It's like it's the critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
And this is why I tell all my kids not to use stupid ChatGPT all the time.
Yeah.
We need critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
And you also need to be able to decipher whether information is real or not. And I think that like that is a problem as well with the general population that doesn't have a science background, is they don't know how to verify if information is real.
I don't even think it's that. Like, I agree with you on that, but I think the bigger issue is that people are impulsive.
Yeah.
They go from living their unhealthy lifestyle, whatever that looks like for them. They have a point one day where they're just like, fuck it, I can't do this anymore. And they're like, I'm just gonna do this thing. I'm gonna join the boot camp. I'm gonna do the injection.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, whatever that thing is that they've kind of been like eyeing, right? And they're just gonna be like, screw it, I'm doing it. And like, have you properly researched it?
Yeah.
Is your gut telling you like, I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm overthinking this? There's probably a good reason for that.
Intuition is a strong tool.
It's strong, and you also need to decipher between like anxiety and intuition.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people confuse this too. Like, there's things to consider, and sure, I'm all for hitting that breaking point and being like, okay, it's time for me to do something about it. But that doesn't mean that you go grab the quick, easy fix, because it's typically those things are what is just marketed the best.
Right.
And they have the most marketing budget, and it's not necessarily what's best for you.
Right. And I think there's this saying that I see, it's usually on Facebook, but I see it on TikTok as well. But the thing is, like, the statement that people make of, it's like, I would kill for my children, or like whatever. That statement. And then the following one is, but would you eat healthy for your children? But would you go to the gym for your children? But would you go to therapy for your children? Like, doing all these things. And it's like we want to jump to like the very dramatic situation of like, yeah, I would do that, but it's but would you do the very long term, very difficult but high paying?
Would you get outside of your comfort zone
Right.
to do the thing that you know you need to do,
Right.
and do something different than what you've been doing,
Right.
so that they have a better future and you have a better future.
And that is the thing that I was gonna say, is with the supplement that is being marketed so heavily right now, and then going back to the comment with sebum, is, to me, unless you are doing everything perfectly, and there are certain cases of people that I'm not talking about that are being prescribed this for a real reason. You know, usually that is for diabetes, because that's what it was created for. But unless you're doing everything perfectly and you need a supplement on top, like, that should not be the only thing that you're using. And I feel like people are like just taking them like Tic Tacs, like they just came out with an edible one as well. I don't know if you saw the commercial for that. You don't have to take an injection anymore. You can take it as a pill.
Oh, you know, I did. I don't know, when you said edible, for some reason I was thinking of like a chewable for some reason.
But
yeah,
you can take it now in the pill form, which makes it even easier because a lot of people don't want to do injections.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't, for 99% of people, that should not be the only thing that you're doing, because that doesn't mean that you get to still chase your kids around. That doesn't mean that you still get to participate in the things that you want to participate in. It just
when you do this injection, whatever form you take it in, it's basically making you get sick and throw up and have no appetite and not want to eat, which is the equivalent of, I know there's so many words on social media that you can't say, but it's the equivalent of making yourself throw up to lose weight.
Yes.
But because it's in a prescription form, suddenly it's okay.
And it's being marketed by athletes. I don't know if you saw that one.
Oh yeah, and it's all just for a paycheck.
That one hurt a little bit. I was like, that's a little bit embarrassing.
Sell out.
Yeah, I believe that it's her husband's brand. I could be wrong, but I think I saw that online, that it was her husband that owns the brand, and I could totally be wrong. But yeah, that one was sad, because like,
yeah,
you know, but
yeah. So I mean, it's essentially starving yourself and making yourself throw up, but it's disguised as healthy because it's under the guise of a doctor and a prescription.
And also, it doesn't fix the problem.
It doesn't, because you're destroying your metabolism in the process. So when you come off these drugs, not only have you not changed your lifestyle, but by eating 500, 800, 1,000 calories a day, you're destroying your metabolism. So then when you come off of it, you're actually going to gain weight faster than you even did before. Because
and a lot of people have said that this has happened, where they got off the medication.
And it's the same thing. You have to go through a reverse diet. You have to change your lifestyle. If you're somebody who has used food, either lack of or in excess, to cope with any emotion, boredom, stress, anxiety, sadness, whatever it may be, you're going to revert right back to that when you come off the medication, and then you're going to be right back to where you were, if not worse.
You haven't fixed the mental component. And I think, a lot of people aren't taking that into consideration, that they're almost all, if you have a problem with food, it's probably because of some type of emotion or mental connection to the food that is causing the problem.
And for the majority of women I work with, not all, but majority, a lot of them are just so caught up with life and being busy, and these bad habits were created over time by accident. And they're just like, I blinked and 10 or 20 years went by and I don't know how I got here. And I get it. Like you said, we live a really fast-paced life, and you kind of just wake up one day and go, holy crap, like, I used to wear a size 2 and now I'm in a size 10, or right? And just lost my train of thought.
It's tough. It's all tough. It was the mental component to food.
Yeah, well, and that's why I work on so much of that. Like, so much of my conversations with my clients, like, it's not just like, here, take this supplement, here, let's do blood work, here are macros, here's a workout. It's like, why are you struggling with these things? What is your thought process? What are the emotions you're experiencing when X scenario happens? And let's have a conversation about that, because it's kind of like therapy, where like you need someone to kind of help you switch your mind around to see your thoughts and your emotions in a different light, to realize how unhealthy it is, or how you're coping in negative ways. And most people don't even realize it because they're just in their day-to-day, and they've been in these bad habits and this routine for so long that you need to have a conversation about it and kind of be like, okay, well, why did you make that choice? Why did you do what you did? Did it not occur to you to do something else? How come? And then it's like, okay, instead of me spelling it out for you, I want to help you come to conclusions on your own, because I don't want my clients to need me forever. I don't want them to be in my program for years and relying on me. I really don't. I mean, I love them, and I get sad when they graduate and leave, but I'm also very happy. I want you to be able to make decisions and answer questions for yourself. So a lot of times I'll have these conversations with them that are like, in response to your question, I'm going to ask you a question so that you can figure it out for yourself, and then I'm going to fill in the blanks and explain to you why that's the answer, so that then the next time that comes around, you're going to be like, oh, Tara and I had a conversation about this, and this is what I should do. I recognize I'm having this emotion, or this pattern, or this habit, or whatever, and this is what I need to do different.
That's the way that I teach my kids. And they get so mad about it. And that's fine. They're only going to be mad about it for so long, and then they're going to get over it, and they're going to figure out how to do it. But I refuse to give them the answer. I will walk you right up to it until it's like about to hit you in the face. I'll get you there. But like, if you cannot come up with the answer on your own, we need to go back a little bit and fix the foundation. But you should not rely on me to give you the answers.
Totally.
That's where that critical thinking comes in, and it's the same type of thing of like, eventually you're not going to be there anymore, and they need to be able to make these decisions well on their own. And also, I think, explaining the why of why you're doing certain things, it's really easy to have somebody be like, do X, Y, Z. Okay, great, I'll do X, Y, Z. And then eventually you get into that habit again, and then maybe X, Y, Z doesn't fit anymore, but you don't know how to ask yourself of, well, how do I change it? Because you don't know why you had that place in front of you in the first place. I think that's also very important.
Totally.